So the advantages to using Doctopus in the classroom is, first and foremost, it allows teachers to save time by of giving immediate feedback to kids through the comments section of Google Docs. And the second benefit is it really teaches kids how to collaborate over distance. And in Bogota, it's very hard for our kids to get to a general location to do group projects, but through Doctopus and through sharing Google Docs, the kids are able to collaborate over distances, and it teaches them the skills to do that in the future. My kids in my life science class have already started doing it on their own now, so it's a very valuable skill.
I think for me the best thing about Doctopus is that it has really allowed my students to sort of collaborate, but in a little bit more organized way than they traditionally would, because it gives me that oversight on what it is that they're working on, and it allows me to give them feedback as they're going along. And you know, say for example they're working on an assignment in class that they go home to work on, I can see sort of their collaboration outside of class because I can see what they're doing in class, but it's also nice to have that extra accountability for any collaboration that's taking place outside of the classroom, and my students are collaborating a lot more outside the classroom than they were before. And then the other thing that I really like about it is that it allows me to give timely feedback, because it's just very easy to give feedback to my students for them to make the adjustments and then continue moving forward on their work.
So some of the advantages that I see with Doctopus as I'm using them in class is for me for organization of their work, because we use it as a digital notebook where they put all their homework, class notes, and class exercises within it. So I can be the owner of that document, so if they lose it, delete it on accident, or something's going on, I can go in and check with all the permissions to see what kind of work that they have done. So I can go to revision history to see if they actually did it on time. I can see, for instance, you can see academic dishonesty. If you go to revision history and all of a sudden a whole page of homework is in there in 1 minute, you know it's copy and pasted for someplace else. It also really helps for leaving comments. I find that I will leave more detailed feedback and support for students digitally, because I can type it out much faster, and if need be, have a bank of comments that I can use over and over again with students. Besides that, we use it in class a lot for students to then have access to their work. They don't have to worry about leaving it at home or in their car or on the desktop of their mom's computer. So the materials are always available, and they don't need to be tied to a specific device or a piece of paper. And so it helps with the organizations of students as well. We also use Doctopus for projects as well. Outside of Google Docs, I use it for the presentation mode, so we can have kids collaborating on one pre-made presentation that they fill in, and then I can also have controls of that and keep them for examples and modeling purposes for my other students. So those are some of the main ways that I find it advantageous to leave behind the paper, leave behind the Word docs, where the latest version is a version you see, but you can always see the process and the editing that went behind it.
This is my first year using Doctopus, and I love it. I particularly like things that are created by teachers, and my understanding of the history of this script is that it was created by a teacher who wanted to answer the question, what are my students doing in my class at any given time? And I can do that now with all of my English students. I can drop in on them on a Sunday night and see if they've completed an assignment. I can talk to a student who looks really tired and say, hey, you know what, you updated that document at 2 in the morning and then you came to my class at 8, you're not getting enough sleep. There are things that I love as far as control with the document. A document tells me a lot more than just what my students are producing for my class. It tells me how they're behaving in working on the schoolwork, which for me adds a layer of complexity to what I do as a teacher that goes beyond just the academic side of things. and I will continue to use it forever as long as it's available. I think it's a great script. This year I've used Octopus to develop reading and writing notebooks in my English classroom. So each student is digitally creating a record of all their writing for the year and all of their interactions with the pieces of reading that we have. I have 2 single documents, and that might change for me in the future, but this is my first year doing it, and I thought, well, I want it to be a wellspring of academic material that they can use as they look back on the year, and I can look back with them when I sit down for a conference and say, for example, you're struggling with sentence structure, you came into the course struggling with it, and you're leaving the course getting a little bit better with sentence structure, but still challenged in these areas. And I like having that longitudinal conversation with students, and the documents allow for that.
This year, Doctopus has provided me, a principal, the opportunity to really open up collaborative professional development spaces. We have used the Doctopus with our yearly professional growth plan. I have gone into my teachers' plans, looked at their goals, given their feedback and comments. The teachers have at mid-year written feedback on what they've been able to accomplish. They've received, again, comments and feedback from administration. And now as we approach the end of the year, teachers will reflect on the end-of-year process for their goals with administrative feedback. I feel like it's really been a dynamic process, and it's allowed us to talk back and forth through the comments. And we're also using that with our summative appraisal rubric. So teachers are going in and being able to do that same process. And I think what it does is it allows that conversation to happen on paper, and then you can also really pick out the most salient points to have in the face-to-face conversation. So I think it's really helped to elevate our professional learning communities in the high school this year.